Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. I know, it's been a while, and today I'm even gonna be doing something completely different. I'm not even gonna be talking about the Nameless Ghibli project. So yeah, sorry about that if you were expecting more devlog content. This is actually the first Mambo Games that I'm gonna be doing. It's a series that I hope to start where I just talk about video games because I like video games. I actually love video games. And yeah, let's see how it goes. If you like the video, then give it a like, and I'll know to continue making videos like these. Okay, let's get into it. So, lately I've been watching The Last of Us on HBO starring Pedro Pascal and Bella Ramsey, and although, yeah, it's a good show, it's a good series, it's got like good performances and it's well written, it's very hard not to compare it to the game. And when you do that, it falls apart pretty quickly. Because it's even weird and puzzling sometimes how some scenes are so much worse in the series than they were in the video game. I mean, they could have just copied and pasted the script and they would have gotten a great series. Instead of that, it sometimes feels like the series goes out of its way to be worse. The good thing about the series though is that it reminded me how great the game is. So that's what I'm gonna be talking about today, The Last of Us. Not the series, but the game. No, not that game. The other one, the good one. Yeah, that one. Nice. Let's go. The Last of Us is a beautiful, heartfelt, thought-provoking and honest experience. And it's also one of the best games ever made. But what exactly is it about this game that has won it the appreciation of so many fans all around the world? I can tell you immediately that it's not the gameplay. Back in 2013, when the game first released, people were tripping over themselves just to keep praising it. Man, I love it so much myself that it's even hard to start describing it. But if you played the game, then you're probably gonna agree with me when I say that the thing that makes it stand out is its narrative and not its gameplay. Cause let's be honest here, apart from some very cool set pieces, the admittedly superb enemy design of the zombies, and the very well achieved horror ambience, what do we really have here? I mean, that simple loop of moving around stealthily, shooting at enemies, going back into hiding and searching for supplies, just doesn't really scream Game of the Year content. The narrative, on the other hand, does, and it makes The Last of Us pretty much unbeatable when it comes to interactive storytelling. But as a game, well, it's just a good solid title. It does a good job, but it's not innovative in any way and it doesn't bring anything new to the table. So if the narrative is so cool in this game, then let's take a quick look at its plot. Oh yeah, and if it wasn't obvious already, I'm gonna be spoiling the hell out of this game. So jump away from your screen if you haven't played it already, and go play it. The Last of Us revolves around Joel and Ellie. There are two strangers who reluctantly travel together across an apocalyptic USA, which is infested by deadly zombies and hostile humans. Their mission is to deliver Ellie to a group of rebels who call themselves the Fireflies. You see, the Fireflies think they can use Ellie's immunity to the zombie virus to create a cure for it, and then kinda save the entire world from this apocalypse. What starts out as a short mission that should have taken about a day or two, turns out to be a long journey of almost a year. Throughout their journey, Joel and Ellie, who in the beginning are very distant and even hostile toward each other, start growing closer together, and they end up building a loving father-daughter relationship. And yeah, that's it. That's the premise of the game. And if you're unimpressed, then yeah, I kinda understand, because it's a very simple premise. And the story even falls in some typical cliches of the genre. Like for example, oh, there's a girl, she's very important, nobody knows why. Oh my god, the girl turns out to be immune to the zombie virus? Wow! You're just killing me with originality here. But it doesn't really matter. Cause yeah, sure, it's a cliche, but who cares about that kind of thing when you've got a story that's got so many good things going for it? You've got a script that is very smart and it's very efficient in bringing the story forward. You've got pacing, which is spot on. The performances, they are amazing. And most of all, we've got the characters. The characters in this game are simply perfect. And that's the point that I wanted to get to. Because I think that the answer to the question, what makes The Last of Us so great, is its characters. And more specifically, it's Joel and Ellie and the relationship. In an interview after the game was released, one of the creators said the following.
As the story evolved and took different shapes and different forms, the thing that was always there was Joel and Ellie. And because of that, everything kind of grew out of that relationship.
That's the core of The Last of Us. It's Ellie, it's Joel, and it's both of them together. That's the beating heart of the game. So let us take a look at them, starting with Joel. Joel is a very relatable character whose story kicks off with a horrible tragedy.
Oh no. Sarah. Move your hands, babe. I know, baby, I know.
This is actually the opening of the game, and with it, The Last of Us is telling us right out of the bat that it's not gonna be like Uncharted, for example. There's no happy story to be told here, quite on the contrary. But even before the death of Joel's daughter Sarah, the game is very efficient and very quick in establishing who this guy is. He's a single, hard-working, not too well-educated man who relentlessly takes care of his family. Then later, as the world kinda crumbles around him, we can witness how he does everything he can to protect his family, especially his daughter Sarah. And then the pain and suffering that comes from failing to protect her. And again, the script is so smart and so efficient in telling us all this, and the performances are so honest and well executed, that players kinda can't help but to feel really torn apart by what they see on the screen. People see this scene and it makes them feel something, and it also creates an immediate feeling of closeness and complicity with Joel through these events that frame his character. When we see him again, 20 years have passed and he's transformed into a completely different kind of person. He's cold, he's pragmatic, and he's merciless. He's not really a person anymore, he's just the shell of his former self. He and his business partner go around killing pretty much everyone in their way, and they do anything they need to in order to survive every day.
That is a stupid idea.
Well, now what?
We don't know much about Tess, but we can kinda see that there's some sort of romance, or at least it's implied that there's some sort of romance between them. But the game doesn't really get much deeper into that relationship. What we do know though is that they're not the nicest people around. They are no heroes and they're not the good guys of this story, because in this game there's actually no good guys.
Guess what? We're shitty people, Joel. It's been that way for a long time.
No, we are survivors.
This is our chance.
It is over, Tess!
The great part of this though is that the script doesn't really judge them. Instead, the game is very honest about the kind of people that Joel and Tess are. But it also shows us why they became like this. This is a world ruled by cruelty, and being a cruel person is about the only way to survive here. Does that make it okay to be a killer? Does that actually make them less cruel or less evil? Well, I don't know, man. I mean, that's a hard question, and the script doesn't feed you any answers. Instead, it leaves you to make up your own mind. This is generally the case for all characters and all situations in the game, and that's why The Last of Us comes across as such an honest game, and it gives us such interesting characters that are very much not perfect, but therefore more interesting and more relatable. Oh, Ellie, what can I say about her? She's actually my favorite character in the game. Opposed to Joel, she doesn't get an extensive backstory, and she's introduced in the middle of the action as she's attacking Joel the first time they meet. She's a brave girl who grew up and was raised in this post-apocalyptic world, and when we meet her for the first time, we see an independent, cocky girl who swears a lot and apparently doesn't give a d*** about anything.
Fuck you, man, I didn't ask for this. Fuck you, you handcuffed
I
me.
need you to shut up.
All of that just a thin veneer under which she's actually just scared shitless, because she has no idea what's gonna become of her. You see, we as players are not shown this, but Ellie and her friend Riley were recently bit by zombies and they were infected with the zombie virus. They decided to wait and turn into zombies and lose their minds together, in a romantic sort of way, but for some reason only Riley turned while Ellie stayed unchanged, discovering this way her immunity to the virus. This traumatic event turns her life upside down because short after, Marlene, the leader of the Fireflies, discovers her and she takes her under her wing. Marlene was actually a friend of Ellie's deceased mother, and she promises not only to protect Ellie, but also to use her immunity to the virus to create a cure and save the world. And although Ellie does like the idea of helping people and kinda restoring peace to the entire world, she's not particularly excited either, because she would have to follow Marlene and leave the quarantine zone where she grew up and go right into the dark unknown. In spite of all this, Ellie agrees to go with Marlene. Marlene plans to smuggle her out of the quarantine zone in order to meet up with an escort group of Fireflies in Boston, but just before she can get to do that, she gets injured. Enter Joel and Tess. Marlene offers them a huge reward for smuggling Ellie out of the QZ, and they accept. This is the context in which Joel and Ellie meet and where the relationship starts. So let's finally get into the juicy part of the game. Joel and Ellie together. At the start, Joel sees her simply as cargo. She's just a task to accomplish in order to get a hefty reward. And because of that, he's even kind of a dick to her.
Well, what am I supposed to do?
I am sure you will figure that out.
Come on, dude, really? And Ellie? Well, she just sees him as a grumpy old bodyguard who will hopefully keep her alive another day. She seems to get along a bit better with Tess, but yeah, we know that doesn't last too long. Actually, Tess's death is the first emotional hurdle they have to go through together. Ellie doesn't really know how to react to the situation, so she's just mumbling some stuff, trying to be nice, but Joel cuts her off immediately.
Hey, look, about Tess. I don't even know what
Here's how this thing's gonna play out. You don't bring up Tess. Ever. In fact, we just keep our histories to ourselves. Secondly, don't tell anybody about your condition. They think you're crazy, they'll try to kill you. And lastly, you do what I say when I say it. We clear?
Sure.
Repeat it.
What you say goes.
Good. Now there's a town.
From this rocky start onward, their journey just puts them through many ordeals, bringing them ever closer together. And if you look at it, you'll realize that each chapter of the game challenges the relationship in some way, and each time the relationship has to transform and adapt to the new reality. At the start, the challenges are not that big, and the results are small things like Ellie earning the right to use a gun, but later it's bigger stuff, like Ellie risking her life to try to get some medicine for Joel, for example. These obstacles in their way just keep coming and coming and coming, and also growing, each of them having a lasting consequence until they cement their father-daughter relationship. Now they're ready for the last challenge, which is the finale of the game. But before we get to the finale of the game, I want to touch on two story moments that I think are amazing, and they also serve as good examples for these emotional hurdles that I'm mentioning. The first one is this amazing scene at the middle of the game. At this point, both characters have grown on each other quite a bit, and they do care for each other. But Ellie finds out that Joel intends to ditch her. Ellie, who's clearly already attached to Joel, feels obviously abandoned by this, and she confronts him.
Is this really all they had to worry about? Boys? Movies? Deciding which shirt goes with which skirt? It's bizarre.
Get up. We're leaving.
And if I say no?
Do you even realize what your life means? Huh? Running off like that, putting yourself at risk? It's pretty goddamn stupid.
Well, I guess we're both disappointed with each other then.
What do you want from me?
Admit that you wanted to get rid of me the whole time.
Tommy knows this area
Oh,
better
fuck.
than... Well, I'm sorry. I trust him better than I trust myself.
Stop with the bullshit. What are you so afraid of? That I'm gonna end up like Sam? I can't get infected. I can take care of myself.
How many close calls have we had?
Well, we seem to be doing all right so far.
And now you'll be doing even better with Tommy.
Not her, you know.
What?
Maria told me about Sarah.
Ellie?
And
You are treading on some mighty thin ice here.
I'm sorry about your daughter, Joel. But I have lost people too.
You have no idea what loss is.
Everyone I have cared for has either died or left me. Everyone fucking except for you. So don't tell me that I would be safer with someone else, because the truth is I would just be more scared.
You're right. You're not my daughter. And I sure as hell ain't your dad. And we are going our separate ways.
Get it together. We're not alone.
There are two walking in.
There's more inside already.
That right there is just amazing writing. Because we as player know that Joel also feels a strong connection towards Ellie beyond just fulfilling a mission. But we also know the pain and the insurmountable agony he went through when he failed to protect his daughter Sarah. Therefore, it's completely understandable that he wants to run away from such a relationship, or anything that reminds him of this pain, or worse yet, anything that might bring those feelings back, like failing to protect a surrogate daughter. Despite all of this, Joel confronts his fear and he puts Ellie before himself, and the chapter ends like this.
There she is. Kids will be watching movies tonight.
Where is this lab of theirs?
It's all the way out, University of Eastern Colorado.
No bighorns. Ellie, get off your horse. Give it on back to Tommy. I'm gonna hang on to this fella, if that's all right with you. Go on, don't make me repeat myself.
What are you doing?
Your wife kind of scares me. I don't want her coming after me.
Sorry for stealing your horse.
Well, come back to town. Let's discuss it at least.
You know me, my mind's all made up. University, Eastern Colorado. How do I find this lab?
It's in the science building. Looks like a giant mirror. You can't miss it.
You take care of that wife of yours.
There's a place for you here. You know?
You good?
I'm good.
Adios, little brother.
Toward the end tail of the game, Ellie's and Joel's roles get reversed, when he gets badly injured and Ellie needs to take care of him. During this whole chapter, the player controls Ellie, who is weaker and more fragile than Joel gameplay-wise, which I think is a very nice touch. It communicates to the player very effectively the differences between both characters. Anyways, as Ellie tries to get some medicine for Joel, she eventually gets captured by just the sweetest group of cannibals, showing us once again that everyone in this world of rainbows and sunshine is just as cute as a cuddly teddy bear. Aw, that's cute. Sarcasm aside, Ellie's the one who gets herself in this trouble, but she's also smart enough and resourceful enough to get herself out of it. In parallel, Joel is worrying about Ellie, and he shows us what's probably the most brutal and savage scene of the entire game, when he tortures a man in order to get some information about Ellie's whereabouts.
The girl. Is she alive?
What girl? I don't know no girl.
Focus right here, right here. I'll pop your goddamn knee off. The girl.
Again, in The Last of Us, there's no heroes and there's no good guys. Just flawed people with some redeemable qualities for whom we care more about than others. All this violence concludes in a final confrontation between Ellie and David, who is the leader of the cannibal group. And at the end of this fight, Ellie shows us that she can be just as savage and just as brutal as Joel is. And at the end of this fight, Ellie shows us that she can be just as brutal and just as savage as Joel.
Ellie! Stop! Stop!
Fucking touch me!
It's okay. It's me. It's me. It's me. Look. It's me.
He tried to...
Oh, baby girl. It's okay. It's okay.
Joel.
It's okay.
For both these scenes, the performances and the writing is so good and so honest that it's very hard to look at them and try to argue that The Last of Us is not about these characters. Everything in the game is in service of these characters so that they can deliver these kind of scenes. After a very long journey, Ellie and Joel are finally arriving in Salt Lake City, and they're about to reach a hospital where they know they will find the Fireflies. Before they can get to the hospital though, Ellie falls into the water and is about to drown. And here it is. All of Joel's fears are coming to life as he desperately takes her out of the water and realizes that she's not breathing. A random patrol team approaches and threatens him, but he completely ignores them because he's performing CPR on Ellie. This leaves him completely open to a smack over the head that knocks him out. When Joel wakes up, he's lying on a hospital bed, and right next to him is sitting Marlene.
Welcome to the Fireflies.
And yeah, Marlene. Well, she gives him the good and the bad news, and it plays a bit like this.
Oh, don't worry, we got Ellie, we rescued her, and she's fine and alive. But yeah, we're gonna be killing her anyway, so... Thanks a lot, bye-bye.
And yeah, Marlene obviously doesn't know at this point that Joel and Ellie kinda care about each other very much, and the sort of relationship they built during the last year, so it's kinda unexpected for her when she realizes that Joel actually opposes the idea of killing Ellie for a cure. And again, the script is very smart about handling the situation, and it doesn't demonize the Fireflies for taking this decision. Because it is actually kind of a hard question. In a world where you're killing people left, right, and center, what does one more life mean? Isn't it obvious that you would like to sacrifice just one more life in order to get a cure? And although the solution to the problem might be obvious in this world and given the circumstances, we still see that Marlene is struggling a lot with this decision. She actually knew Ellie's mother, and she actually promised Ellie's mother that she was gonna protect her.
Hey, Anna. It's been a while since we spoke. I need you to know that I've kept my promise all these years. Despite everything that I was in charge of, I looked after her. I would have done anything for her, and at times... Here's a chance to save us. All of us. This is what we were after. What you were after. Oh, I miss you, Anna. Your daughter will be with you soon.
So it's obviously not an easy choice for her. But again, she takes the reasonable decision of just sacrificing one more life in order to save the world. Seeing that there's no time to talk this out because Ellie is entering surgery right now this moment, Joel just goes Rambo on all of these guys and kills them.
Where's the operating room? I ain't got time for this. Where? Top floor, the far end.
You see, for Joel is the complete opposite. Although he's not as evil a person that he wouldn't try to save the world, his hand is being forced here, and he chooses to sacrifice the world for Ellie's life instead. In a particularly merciless scene, he even kills Marlene as he holds an unconscious Ellie in his arms, because he considers that she could be a threat to Ellie in the future.
Wait! Let me go. Please.
You just come after her.
But the reality is that he also kills her because he's scared. Scared that if Ellie ever finds out what happened here, she's gonna go back to the Fireflies on her own and sacrifice her life voluntarily. So he also lies to Ellie. During the last minutes of the game, we see Joel telling Ellie that the Fireflies cannot produce a cure and that they actually stopped looking for one. Ellie is at least a little bit suspicious about what Joel is telling her, but she ends up believing him and they go together to Tommy's community in Jackson to live out a relaxing life. I don't know, maybe they're gonna take up golfing.
Nice shot!
And that's it. That's The Last of Us, and more importantly, that's Joel, that's Ellie, and that's their relationship. In the end, what I'm trying to say here is that The Last of Us is not about zombies, it's not about an apocalyptic USA, and it's also not about gunfights. It's about an emotional journey. It's about two strangers who have no reason to even trust each other, but they still defy the odds and they end up building something pure and beautiful. Something that in the end is sustained by a lie.
You want to hear right now?
Swear to me. Swear to me that everything that you said about the Fireflies is true.
I swear.
Okay.
Okay, so I hope you liked this first episode of Mambo Games. It's a kind of video that I've wanted to make for a long time now, but I've always postponed it for one reason or another. What do you think though? Do you agree with me and also think that this game is about characters, or do you have another opinion? Let me know down in the comments and let's have a civilized conversation about it. Me making this video obviously doesn't mean that I'm not working on the Nameless Ghibli project anymore, quite the contrary, and I'm gonna be having some news soon. So if you don't want to miss anything, then you might want to subscribe to this channel and also enable that notification bell. And if you're already down there, then you might also want to like this video. Come on, the button is right next to it. Nope, not that one. Yeah, that's a good one. Okay, this has been quite a video. Thanks a lot for watching. I wish you an amazing day and I'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.